Hello and welcome to my Mad Scientist tier list for Mad Scientists. Here we'll be ranking our Mad Scientists from relatively stable to full-blown lunatic. I'd like to introduce my board to begin with. I have with me Mental Alchemist, who feeds my publicity addiction and hosts a great podcast. I forgot that I wrote that.
Oh, thank you.
Alright. We have a heteronormie who's come to provide some humour and levity.
And tech support.
Yeah, it's a lot of tech support. And we have Dargos420 here to add his take on these characters range from glorious to just plain weird. You still there, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, good. Also note that this list is not meant to highlight whether anyone involved is ethical or not. It's merely meant for fun, and I'm not suggesting you should do any of the things mentioned in place of talking to your doctor. This is just for a bit of entertainment. So without further ado, here we go. Our first candidate is Stephen Jurovic, who's found here. Having invented crubiosine and worked alongside Dr. Andrew Ivy, Stephen Jurovic worked in Argentina, then the US to research crubiosine. Crubiosine is a serum made from horse blood that safely carries properties. Hang on, sorry, I can't use that. Crubiosine is a serum drawn from horse blood made to improve people's chances against the big C. He traded many blows with the government and won over senators, doctors, and courtrooms in relation to his research. Jurovic and his brother survived a series of indictments before he was forced to leave the US when being investigated for tax-related crimes. He left the United States due to this, but the United States didn't try to stop him from leaving while under investigation, which indicates it was more about stopping his research. I'll add on to that, he survived an enormous amount of nonsense, highly spurious lawsuits. What I would call spurious. So there's a bit of doubt over the sincerity there. Okay, so here's Stephen Jurovic. What have people got to say about him first and foremost?
It kind of sucks because it's like you're looking at somebody that created a drug that is now technically widely used in helping cats and dogs. And one thing I find that's really interesting is how that well that just speaks volumes. I don't know. He had tax crimes, right? There's some sort of probably tax evasion. I don't know. I mean,
Oh, we've all been there.
yeah, well, I don't know if we're all been there. I don't want to be there.
Well, I don't know how true
Um,
that is. There is a strong suggestion the government just said it to throw something at him, however true it was.
yeah, I mean, if that's the only charge, I think we're pretty good. Now, at the same token, is there more? Uh, how are the clinical trials of Horizon? How uh, was there any mice murdered in this process? Right?
What I
I mean,
recall is they
forget.
did carefully monitor the results of Gary Cathcart, who went from sick to onto Cabios and became not sick, got taken off of it and became sick with the big C again, then got put back onto it again and became better again. So, there's something of a red light, green light correlation going on there. The excuse that
Well, maybe the problem is that it could is Kerbiasin, and that's what you're saying is like why we can't really say anything good or bad about it because maybe it just puts things in remission while they're on it, but in long-term effects, does it does it stop it? Now, the concern here would be this: if you have a doctor or anybody that goes out there and starts selling or peddling their snake venom, um, like when we give people, and as Dargos and I spoke the other day about white and black polarities in the sense that this is final, this is it. And in all reality, then that can be dangerous because if Stephen Jervik was going out of his way to say this is the only cure, then he could, I hate to say it, then he might be a bit debatable when it comes to like I don't think he's unhinged, but I think that there is an aspect to being unhinged by not looking at other aspects to either holistic or allopathic relation to quote unquote curing the big C.
yeah,
But at the
it's
same token, like, sorry, yeah.
it's terrible. I mean, the fact he's trying to monopolize that I don't like at all. I don't believe it for a split second that it is the one and only thing that could help you. But, it's quite indicative when they try monopolizing. You were saying?
Um, no, I agree. I mean, I think you said it right there. I mean, if you're trying to make money off of people's illness, um, which is, and the sad problem is that most of these, let's say there was a medication out there that could cure. Um, is it fair to the inventor, the person that spent their whole life's research on creating this? Is it fair for them to give it away for free? I don't think so. But at the same time, I also think that there comes to a direction in people where if we're not giving people help freely, is it really good? What do you have to say, babe?
I was just gonna say, if you do a cursory Google search about Kervizen, the first thing obviously that comes up is an AI overview saying it's a cruel hoax,
That's
according to the
dangerous.
FDA, and a wacko thing. But what I found interesting is apparently this is the claim at least, one of the initial samples of Kervizen was found to be creatine dissolved in mineral oil.
Hmm.
Yes, I
Creatine
had.
itself has very good anti-tumor in general properties. Creatine is honestly like a
But we,
miracle amino acid.
but again, the because we can't really, um, there's not enough research on that. And let's face it, like, are they going to be looking at? It's only now that we're talking about creatine being helpful for the brain, whereas when creatine was brought into my awareness, it was what dehydrated you, right? You got to be careful with that.
Well, yeah, you.
But I would be careful on saying anything is a miracle because we really don't know. Like it's not until we actually have the FDA saying it is. Dargos, what do you think?
I don't know.
Well, that doesn't help shit.
I'm sure you'll
I
come up a bit later, right? There's one thing I would like to point out about the creatine excuse is that FDA produced multiple reports, one of which said that it was 50% creatine, the other said it was 30%. Okay, those numbers might not be exact, but they had some reports that outright contradicted each other. And Senator Douglas made a keen point to the fact that the AMA/FDA seemingly couldn't get their stories straight.
Well, that's an ongoing occurrence.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't put an ounce of stock into what the AMA has to say. It's they kind of beg to not be taken seriously. But all in all, I'm not fully set on whether or not his invention actually had any use. I mean, we need to put him somewhere. So what are we thinking? I'm sensing in the sort of lighter
Well,
stages.
hold on. Like we didn't even get Dargos's opinion. So Dargos, do you need like a 2 minute to check him out, or what are your
Yeah, because I
thoughts?
don't really know too much about them. Like creatine, I don't see it really doing a whole lot, but to give cells the certain cells that creatine it needs to do normal things. While I can't really see creatine curing anything because we intake it in so much every day. Like when you eat meat, certain berries and stuff like that, eat it, and it's really for the processing. It's for your muscles, basically. It's a little bit of brain, but it's mainly for your muscles, for your mobility.
I I mean, I thought that, and what I'm saying is because heteronormy went on a almost a dangerous direction.
I was just saying what the mainstream is claiming about Kervizen and the Durovic brothers. Um, Apparently, the first time that they had to actually submit the raw ingredient itself, just raw Kervizen, to the FDA, um, they sampled it and it turned out to be just creatine powder. And that this is their claim at least, right? This is just I'm not agreeing with this. It could very well be that Kervizen is a real thing. Um, Apparently, the color in it comes from horse flesh, and
Just one moment, I got to change the tape. Okay, carry on.
yeah, they're saying that basically it was like creatine tinted by horse flesh, basically. Now, I don't know. I think it'd be
Okay,
interesting.
there is one.
Sorry, go on.
there's one problem I have with it just occurred to me this, right? I've seen those two on tape, and they stated to a camera, both of the two, that what was it? No one has ever been refused crybiozin on the basis of financial inability, and the makeup for how to create it has always been readily available, but they had vanishingly little response from apprentices or would-be apprentices.
But okay, like I
Okay.
mean, if someone told me how to make cryobiocin and it was just creatine, I'd be game. But I mean, but at the same time, like I also need to know what, as an alternative practitioner, like why am I doing this? It's like, it's even the idea of taking and I want to stay still on topic, but like really quick, like methane blue, right?
Methylene
Like
blue.
methylene blue. You have to be very careful with that because when that is not administered properly, you can turn your brain blue, right? It's the same thing with,
Oh, you can do worse.
well, yeah, but what I'm saying is briefly is that anything that we take without knowing ramifications. Now, if you're eating horse flesh, I do have a problem with that. Like if I'm eating horse flesh that has been properly like properly distilled. I mean, again, I don't know the process is right, like a beef
Yeah.
jerky type situation where you're now giving it to me like collagen or like what is like bovine collagen. It's just bovine, right? But we
Yeah.
call it collagen. It's all the same thing. But I mean, again, it brings my ideas or my thoughts to the fact that if we don't know exactly what we're getting and people start trying to like freely make this stuff or it's readily available, that there's a lot of readily available things that you can make. You could ferment coconut fat and you could kill yourself. You could ferment corns and you could kill yourself. So it's like there's a lot of bacteria and parasites that we have to be careful of, and that's I'm not for the FDA at all. Like I do think that there's a lot of stuff that the FDA gets their fingers in and honestly ruins.
Oh, totally.
But we do need regulation on some space in a sense that like you do not want to be eating horse chillings when you just don't want that. Like that's why we have what is it that uh, why am I having such a staff, right? When you go to the hospital, they give you a
Yeah.
antibiotic or and.
All right. Well, that roughly covers the ins and outs of Steven Jurevik. Where do you think he should rank on here?
Creatine as a cure, like you only get creatine from meat. Like I can't really see it as a cure.
Yeah.
Well,
All
you don't
right.
have to
So,
necessarily. It doesn't have to be like 100%. If it massively reduces your, if it equips your body with what it needs. Like a
So
lot of people out here are just
So I just
eating
eat
total
meat.
shit. You know.
so would it be safe to say that his research on chrobiocin, aka if it is creatine, um, and like I think the truth matters, all of us probably need to go do more research on him because I don't want to call anybody crazy without
No.
really knowing. But I mean, I would put it debatable. Like I wouldn't necessarily put it in the stable category, but I would definitely put it in the debatable category.
all right. Well, I'm with you on that. You two, what do you think? Is he indebatable?
See, I
I'm
know
gonna say
nothing about the
debatable.
court. I know nothing about the court case, but I'm gonna go with highly unlikely creatine as a cure.
Yeah, well, it's the behavior of it is the thing is it's the behavior of the FDA and the likes to give a lot of credence to him by just throwing massive amounts of non-issues at him in a courtroom. The idea being to wear him down and make him stop functioning through a different means, and we're going to pick that thread back up.
Well,
But
that's sad.
having said that,
That's really sad.
yeah, you'll see a running theme there. Next, we've got Andrew Ivy, his partner in crime. Maybe literally, we don't know. Known for his work on crybiozin, Andrew Ivy helped promote and research the drug. He was vice president at the University of Illinois, was invited to give his view at the Nuremberg trials, and spent over 4 decades in the medical trade. He was described by his opponents as inexperienced and not worth taking seriously. You see what I mean about begging not to be given any credence to AMA?
Yeah.
Ivy was married to a scientist who also specialized in medicine. So his actions are basically he was just the sidekick of Jurovic. With that in mind, there's where do you think he should go? There's not a great deal to add that we didn't already cover.
Well, I mean, I think there is right there in the sense that he was invited to the Nuremberg trials. I mean, I like that. Obviously, this guy wasn't. I mean, not anybody just gets invited to speak on behalf of crimes against humanity, right? So, um, what and I am concerned with anybody that says to someone you shouldn't be worth taking seriously. Um, they probably have a lot of things to say that you should be taking seriously, but it's very easy to discredit. So, um, and he's a doctor. So, I mean, my concern is how much was he promoting the anti-cancer properties, right? And at the same time, maybe creatine or carbamazepine, whatever you want to call it, is it. But also, maybe it's not. And if you have a doctor promoting that, that's illegitimate, and that is concerning. So, at first, I was going to say maybe he's probably a bit stable, but then I'm like, maybe he's just debatable as well.
All right, well, he can go up there with his best mate, I suppose. At least he's got him for company. Okay.
Any thoughts?
Next
Any
is.
Dargos? Any thoughts on that or?
Oh yeah, sorry, I should have.
Honestly, like his description sounds pretty tame. Like was he as diehard into it as everyone else on Carbizon or no?
I think he was a little less extreme than Jurovic, but he was pretty hardcore. If Jurovic was a 10, Ivy was an 8 in terms of commitment.
Yeah, I don't think this guy's crazy at all. I think he's normal.
All right, so we got 2 for debatable. Dargos, you want to be the swing vote, debatable or stable?
Debatable. I also see it as e- like the fact that they're doctors would mean they wouldn't come up with a good scam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I should have mentioned he won over quite a few doctors, not just one.
Yeah, you can also line other people's pockets,
Graham and no, sorry,
cut people
he
in on
had
a piece of the pie. They'll
Green.
put their signature on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, on to round 3. Nikola Tesla, famed for many inventions and often thought of as the smartest man ever to walk the earth, Tesla was rumored to have created a medbed that could heal people through sound-based medicine, which directly activated the DNA repair system in the body, making them work by forcing the instructions. Today, there exists a center in Delaware that utilizes some of Tesla's technologies. He would also not enter a building unless he circled it 3 times and would clean his plates with exactly 18 napkins. So there's a lot to add to this one. Where to begin?
See, I wouldn't. I don't know. I wouldn't even put him at unhinged, but I see. I don't think OCD is unhinged. I just think it's probably like more some screws loose. Now, I do know that there is an allegations of him, you know, chemically castrating himself so he could focus on his work. Um, Again, a little focused, which I think is a good thing, but also a bit weird.
I disagree with that bit weird. If you have like men's greatest weakness is a female. Some of us, that's a big thing to us to where we don't have the willpower to turn away females. So him being a very intellectual person that has that niche, most logical thing would be to do, plus it's not permanent, to take something so that's not a deterrent. Because he probably would be deterred as soon as the first pretty female will walk by and flirt at him. He lost track.
The
Like
funny thing is
Now,
the
I do recall
feel
that he had a friend who he saved from some sort of train wreck, and he was in love with that friend's wife or girlfriend, but he refused to soil the relationship of theirs. Don't know if that doesn't necessarily contradict what you're saying. It's just something I heard.
yeah, I can see him being weak there, and by him being a smart intellectual person, and thing would be to take something that would get rid of that issue while you work out problems. And he's a quirky scientist. Like scientists experiment on themselves all the time. Like I know through
Hell, I
college
do.
students that are in medicine and science and different like chemistry, they will make drugs so they could push on through
Yeah.
school.
Yes.
So I'm
Sorry,
sure
one moment. I gotta change tape again. Okay, resume.
so I am sure that like it was a rational, logical. It may have been a little bit like thinking about it, but with an intellectual mind that thinks logically, that would be the logical explanation to rid of that temporarily till you could accomplish what you're trying to.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's highly rational. The OCD is definitely going to have to go up a few points for that. No offense to the man or anyone suffering with it, but overall, the term mad scientist, I'm throwing it around as a term of endearment here, not as an actual insult. So I wouldn't mind. I'm on the damn list, actually. I wouldn't mind being listed pretty high. Anyone else got anything to say before we give this guy's final rating?
Um, I don't know how I feel about the claims about him chemically castrating himself. I don't know if I believe that, but I think he's an unstable genius because when you get like if he actually is as smart as people say he is, and his contributions were pretty great, um, especially if a lot of the more we'll say conspiratorial like contributions or the achievements that people claim he's made, if those are all true, then he's undeniably the smartest person in human history. Um, or he had something revealed to him, right? Lots of evidence in the world of ancient technology involving sound being used to do anything from healing to harming to cutting through rocks, forming, stone, forming clay, doing all these crazy things, right? Um, it's not crazy to posit that he might have picked up on that, right? He might have been very studious of history, and who knows what information they had access to back then that we don't have now.
Yeah.
Something like 98% of all literary work up until about 1960 um, has not been preserved and digitized. Like there's definitely paper copies out there somewhere, but it's like a one of one with no backups made. Um, 98% of all media prior to 1960 is not digitized complete. I don't even think it's not digitized. I think what it is, it's literally lost, like burned or thrown in the garbage. I'm pretty sure that's the actual stat. 98%, right? How many newspaper articles, books, historical or otherwise, photographs, paintings, letters, firsthand accounts from people who have seen this stuff in the past, right? I don't think I don't think Nikola Tesla was wrong, but I think when you're that smart, you also tend to be unstable. You're like operating at the peak. You're gonna, he was working hard, right? He would probably get strung out and a little fucking wired up.
No, I can relate to that, to be honest. I mean, the amount of times people have called me stupid for my inventions and practices, and I just think to myself, if you had the first idea what you are enabling, you would not have said that. And honestly, this is mainly my temperament. It makes me want to hurt them,
Yeah, well, yeah, the
frighten
good
or
thing is that
shame them.
we don't do that, but like, yeah, no, I hear you. It's not fun when people are mean.
Now,
Um,
Yeah, it's not anyone that challenges me, right? There's the tolerance there. Sometimes, quite often, it's a good thing. I'm talking about the people that don't actually know what they're talking about, just firing off
I want to
anger with a
defend the
paint job.
scientist. Unstable to who? Because you have a different thought process like OCD. OCD would be considered unstable back in the day. So because you have these little quirks, which you find a lot of smart people have, especially when you get into the extra intelligent. I don't want to use the word genius because we've all built off of other people, and there's a lot of smart people that aren't labeled genius. A lot of people that are labeled genius that acquired that, and a lot of the people that we label geniuses had a lot of input from a lot of other smart people that we don't label as genius.
yeah,
But a lot of smart people have quirks and ticks that regular people would call normal, crazy, but you
yeah,
tend to find it across the board once you get over a certain intellect.
Yeah.
So I
but
think he's a very intelligent man that exactly did
Yeah.
that because, like I say, I'm trying not to be very biased when it comes to Tesla, but similarities. I've looked throughout history and I started like the looking for the truth of religion. But when you see all these different artifacts, like we put millions of dollars, and Hitler did in World War II searching for biblical artifacts. Why would we
yeah,
do that if it's fictitious?
mm-hmm,
Um, Energy from crystals. We know about piezoelectric energy,
yep,
but it's downplayed a lot, which is energy from crystal. So I think that he was just a smart guy who had the normal quirks of a guy with intellect who was very focused and wanted to see, probably found some truth, piezoelectric, and wanted to test every theory. And because he was focused and caught up and wrapped up, whether he chemically castrated himself, like I say, I could see a reason to do that, especially being a very intellectual person that's dealing with chemistry and physics and all that.
All right. That's a great analysis. Where do we think he
Well,
should rank, though, on this list? I'm of the belief of some screws loose
you
is
know,
pretty
I
fitting.
honestly, I like what Dargos was saying, and I appreciate what Heteronorm was saying, and I appreciate what you're saying. It gives perspective. I do think walking around a building 3 times, if like any of you guys did that, I would be like, you're being weird, you know? But at the same time, I also know that like maybe you had a conversation with Jesus or God or divine spirit, whatever you want to call it, that I don't know about. So walking around that building is what makes you feel secure. So who am I to judge? You know, obviously it works. So I I agree. I mean, I kind of would stick with maybe like I said, some screws loose. I don't think he's truly insane. And I honestly don't think someone stable can really create what Tesla did create. And I'm not saying that he was unstable. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying merely that yeah, like most of the genius people out there, they they come across the board a little bit, you know, and yeah.
All right. What are we placing him in then?
I'm gonna say, I gotta read the tiers closer up. I'm gonna kind of say unhinged.
Really, you're gonna go all the way unhinged?
I think he did have
That's
legitimate OCD
that's
and
one.
everything with like I've had a bout of OCD before from about like age like 7 or maybe 8 until I was like my late teens where like, if I'm walking on a sidewalk and my left foot stepped on the crack accidentally, then I would have to step on at least one crack with my right foot to balance it out. So if I stepped on 2 cracks accidentally with my left foot, I'd be like, "Oh shit, I got to do two with my right foot to even it out." So
Alright.
it zeroes out.
So
But
you're
like
unhinged?
no, but
All right.
I
On
think
one for
these
unhinged. I
things add
was.
up, right? I only had that one tick. Now, mind you, it would impact a lot of things. If like I accidentally touch something with my hand, is it my right hand? Okay, I have to accidentally touch it with my left hand. I had to brute force my way out of that, and I've never had to deal with it since. But it's hard to overcome that, and that stuff makes you like crazy neurotic. People with the kind of brain structure to even support Tesla's intellect, there's a lot of little imperfections that can make a very neurotic person, right?
Then like some screws loose then. Okay, sorry,
Listen,
it's your choice. It's your
it's
choice.
a tough list because we're really only
Yeah.
scaling people by negatives in one specific area. Like I really admire Tesla. I think he is a genuine genius, and I think a lot of his work has been deliberately hidden. But if we're purely talking about his mental and emotional state, that's probably exactly where he was for much of his life.
Some screws loose. I'm with you on that. So the other, you two, Dargos and Mental Alchemy, where are you ranking him?
I
Douglas?
can't do the unhinged. I'm debatable. I'll give you some screws loose at most, but I'm debatable. Yep.
All right, Mental Alchemy, what do you think? You're the swing vote. Some screws
Well,
loose or
I said
debatable?
some screws loose. That's
That's three
poor
for
guy.
some screws loose then.
Okay.
And I also want to add this. What's his name? Oyasene. He's like one of the smartest physicists right now. He has several ticks, and he's working on a lot of government projects, working at a lot of different universities and all that. Has to land at 100 on the right foot at the top of a stairway. He has to hurry up and calculate the math to start off with what foot so he can land on the perfect number at the top of the stairs. Would you call
Yep.
that unhinged? See, but
Uh, okay, you know what? Okay, I want to hold on. I want to actually, yes, I would. And I want to say this, okay? Because I feel like our society has done this whole thing with like labeling and not labeling and being like this and normalizing mental health. Okay, the truth of the matter is that like if your mental health tick got you to where you're going, then keep on going there. Okay. But in reality, normalizing things that are weird, like that's okay that it's you. Like again, whatever you do behind closed, whatever you do is really none of my business. Like I shouldn't be watching other people. I should be watching TV. That's why we have it. But I also think that yeah, like if you are calculating some weird foot number to I was in the same boat. Like I had a bit of an OCD growing up where, I really liked even numbers. And every single time
Yep.
I came across um a bigger slice of the cake, I wanted that slice of cake. And then I realized that I never finished the slice of cake. I didn't need the slice of cake. So I would go out of my way every time I wanted something more. I would give it to somebody else because that would actually offset where my brain was going. I need this, I need this. I don't actually need that. And so I think at some point going against whatever your brain is now at the same time, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should have gone high to the wind with this whole thing and I should have kept on going because that would have made me a genius. I'm joking. But I do think right now our society does normalize things and say, okay, like just because you're weird doesn't mean you can't be smart. Can't doesn't mean you can't operate a business. Doesn't mean you can't do magnificent things. Like any of these stupid acronyms people want to take today doesn't really stop you from being the best that you can, but also just like when you do something weird, you did something weird.
Okay, but this what I'm saying. It coincides with intellect and especially genius. Name a genius that didn't have something that people consider weird.
No, it's true. It does correlate. Genius results from extreme outlier brain architecture. It's, when you look at genius, it's 135 IQ, or I think 132 IQ or higher. And there are 5 specific criteria at a minimum that a person has to have, like 5 personality traits in order to meet the criteria. They tend to be neurotic, right? Extreme outlier brain architecture at both ends of the bell curve, high and low, results in abnormalities, right? That's why, you know, people who, have like very low IQ can often also, it can coincide with other personality traits, right? That are a result of just abnormal brain architecture. People more towards the middle of the bell curve tend to be more normal, and then at the high end you have a lot of eccentricities. And I mean, look at a lot of the serial killers of the 20th century. A lot of them were extremely intelligent.
No, but no, actually, that's been debunked. A lot of sociopaths are not
Yeah.
smart.
They're
A
not,
lot,
you're right.
most
Okay, well
sociopaths and
look.
psychopaths think they're smart. That's the dangerous part. Is they
So
actually think they're smart.
let me ask you this question. Wouldn't that be normal then?
No, I read statistically,
Wouldn't that be
psychopaths are
normal
not more
then if
intelligent
you
than
say
anyone
there's a
else.
consistency with the super high IQ and ticks? It's
I
abnormal under a certain IQ, but it's normal over a certain IQ.
no, I agree with you. I do agree with you, but I
Mm.
also but I'm going to still say like, and I think Professor O probably wants us to move on, but I agree
Yeah.
with you, and I also think that our society exactly in 2025, without me going into my whole other thing that I've been really confused and concerned about, there's a lot of stuff that we've been normalizing, and yeah, if you walk around a building 3 times, in my mind, that's a tick. That's weird.
Yeah.
That's not something that a stable person consistently does. But I'm not saying that doesn't mean that if you walk around the
Yeah.
building, you can't be stable in the sense of have a regular lifestyle,
Yeah.
right? That's it. Yeah.
The trouble is,
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want it for myself. Moving on to our next one. Fourth entry
Okay. All
has
right.
been censored because I don't want this video to vanish. Fifth entry. Royal Raymond Rife. Here he is. Having invented the Rife beam and microscope, Rife was praised by multiple big-name doctors for his technique of using sound to shatter disease in the same way singing can break glass. These doctors included Dr. Milbank Johnson, James B. Couch, and Alvin G. Ford. He was, however, driven to alcoholism following stress from a legal case funded by Maurice Fishbein, but he made a comeback in the 1960s with help from John Crane and John Marsh. He was again challenged by the authorities for his actions. He's rumoured to have at one point killed all disease cells in an entire building by accident, but we couldn't prove that. Okay, I'm just putting him there for the while so I don't have to hold it constantly. What does everyone have to add on the subject of R.R.
I can
Rife?
tell you that my whole little synopsis in one. I would have thought he was crazy, but we have found, and I can't remember the female's name, found recent that sound can you could use certain frequency to rupture specific cells. It has been accomplished recently within the last year and a half.
Hold on, are you describing Christy Gibbons, CEO of Histosonics there?
She was a doctor. I don't know about the company. I remember reading about it not too long after it happened when I was in ops at Amazon. And I looked into it and it was and the read was 70 of them. It totally got rid of it and it was like 15 it stopped and the other 5 it slowed it down. So it showed that it affected and
Hmm.
Not bad, not bad. See if you can link that to me at some point. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we'll see this going forward, but he was not isolated at all in the case of, I'm just going to bring him up briefly, Priore, Nasons, and George Lakovsky. You know, there was a major similarity there. Did I forget someone from those sound-based things? Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, Dinshar's debatable.
Well, you
And not in terms of this, just in terms of how he
well,
related
you
to this
forgot
stuff.
me, and like
So
the
yeah,
thing is I do work in
yeah,
pulse
sorry.
electromagnetic fields and biofeedback, and that is what I went to school for. And I have seen in 10 years, 10 plus years um, of my practice, amazing results and simple results. I mean, there's been a lot of situations, family events, where I've put people on biofeedback, um, and within minutes, within hours, what we thought was super horrible has subsided. I've had people come over and be very sick and be able to leave the house, right? I've had people with plasma analysis come back after, coming to sessions and seeing, uh, crazy results. So when it comes to the realm of biofeedback and light and sound, you and I, all of us, we're an electromagnetic being, we're an aquatic being, right? And we respond very well to water and light and sound. That's just the basis. But I want to make sure, is this the guy that had those practices with where some of the children, like, is this,
I think you're describing Wilhelm Reich there.
this is who we're describing though, right?
No, Royal Raymond Reich is who we're covering right now, and I don't recall anything about that being mentioned in my research of him.
right.
Well,
I don't know a lot about him, but I never heard any about that. It is they literally named the Rife after him. It's the Rife scale.
yeah,
Um,
no, yeah,
I probably should
yeah, that I
mention
do. Exactly.
one thing I neglected to bring up was he invented a sort of X-ray machine for steel on the request of Henry Timken, so he could detect steel before it hit the market and before it became difficult to fix. They just toss it out a line and correct things. It saved them millions of dollars in overhead.
That's an awesome invention. I wonder if that was adapted for X-rays for welding and checking metal defects.
It
you
might
know
well have
what?
That
been.
And then
technology
too in the
alone
ore
is preventing so many millions of people from dying in like building
steel.
collapses.
You know, you take the iron ore, you have to mix it and treat it and create the steel. Multi-purpose to make sure you don't have defects, air pockets, places where it wasn't mixed well enough. Um, it dries messed up to where you have weak spots, I guess, because of impurities. So it probably all of that, like
Yeah, Rife was responsible. Rife was responsible for that. Now, I think due to he didn't he had almost no relationship with his mother, had a sort of surrogate relationship with Henry Timkins' sister, whose name I can do it. What was his sister's name? Amelia C. Bridges. Yeah. And he was devastated when she died, and it drove him into alcoholism. He lost his wife, Naomi Quinn, as well. So I think for that, he's going to have to go up a bit, and he'd probably confess to that. So where do you think he should rank on this scale? I'm thinking quite like middle region to high
Now you say
here.
he admitted to what?
See,
I think no, not he admitted to. I think he would have admitted that he was in a bad state, 19 late 30s onwards, because of the abuse he'd suffered.
Yeah, I don't
sorry,
know
sorry,
about
go.
the views, but as far as the death, I would say depressed. I wouldn't want to go unhinged.
All right, should we settle on some screws loose
I'll
then?
say that would be equivalent to depressed.
Yeah, I'll sort that. So let's settle on this.
Okay, so I do
Royal
want to
Raymond
say
Rife. I'm
I
voting
do really
some
like this
screws
guy.
loose.
Now that I could read what Royal Rife. I actually, again, like I said, I do have a device, and I get these two guys messed up. And oh man, oh man, very cool, very cool. And I again, I've seen his devices in practice to this day. So what's something really cool is that for someone in that time frame, instead of them getting the publicity or the help or the what is it, as we know, the sponsorship, um, to this day we are finding that there are people that are dealing with responses now at the same time with biofeedback. That doesn't mean that it's an all stop cure, right? It means that there's still other ways of looking at this stuff. There's the physical groundwork that each people have to do, right? Like you don't just go on the Rife and go, okay, I don't have herpes anymore. You start changing your diet and changing up what's going on, and then being careful, and also knowing that you don't go sleep with people and not tell them that you don't have it, right? um but yeah, I actually, honestly, I don't even know if I put him on unhinged. I think, to me, I'd go probably back with I don't know. I mean, then again, you also have to be very focused and driven to get to this place. And then, yeah, alcoholism, I definitely feel like that would happen. If no one took you seriously, you'd go down a rough path without the right support. So I feel like he's debatable. I mean, it's a sad life to have that type of device and that type of help to get help for society, and everybody laugh at you.
Yeah, you know the mad thing, right? When I turned 18, I forced myself not to drink because I knew based on just one count of PTSD, it was going to destroy me if I made a habit of it. So I never went there. Then I picked up two other cases after the fact, for God's sake, so that was a pretty good decision. Hell, I might not be here if I'd done the
Hmm.
opposite. I might be dead. Okay, we got one for debatable, one for some screws loose. What do you two have to say?
I'm gonna say screws loose for sure.
All right. Dargo,
I don't
swing
know if
vote.
it's swing vote because I'm with the debatable.
All right. We'll bring him down, but we'll keep him pretty high on the debatable range. All right, here we go. Here's one of the flagships as well. We got Wilhelm Reich starting off strong by enraging Sigmund Freud by speaking against elements of psychoanalysis. Reich fled Germany, then Norway, and spent the 1940s working on ergonomic devices. He claimed orgone was the essence of the universe and that he could aggregate it and use it to heal people. He was shut down for he was shut down by the authorities for selling across state lines and died in jail, never facing charges for enabling cruelty at the Ergonomic Infant Research Center. He also chased people away from his home with a shotgun, had a terrible haircut, and once worked with Albert Einstein, writing multiple books that called for changes and had a connection to the hippie movements of the 1960s. I'll add on to the point about his haircut that he had an uncanny resemblance to the robber from Spider-Man 2. Sorry, Spider-Man 2002. Also, his debate with Einstein, he was proven right by Paulo and Alexander Correa in 2001, many, many years after both of them had died. So, where to begin?
I'm just gonna say that chasing people away from your home with a shotgun. Why are those people at his home?
I think they were either paparazzi or some
Exactly.
FDA
Like
idiots.
you always got to consider these things, right? Oh, he was so mean to us. Well, what were you doing? Yeah, of course he has his right to chase you off the property with a shotgun.
But hold on, hold on. What about the infants? Okay, like my
Yeah,
problem with this guy is you got
You
yeah,
can
an
that's
chase
what I
them
wanted
too.
to.
no, you got an infant research center. Okay, like what are you doing with infants at an infant research center?
Yeah,
That is a
that's
good
And what
what I
like
wanted
the
question.
to
Like,
know.
19?
how are you acquiring them? Is it voluntary? People are just volunteering their kids. Like, are you running a cult to get their kids? What are you doing?
How did they get the kids?
Yeah.
Didn't look into that, to be honest. I didn't have much of a desire to. All right, so we've got Reich now. I've seen with my own eyes that ergonomic devices, to what I've seen, can reduce pain. Again, I'm not trying to replace anyone's doctor or whatever, but this is the one I have the most experience with. And I think that honestly, Reich himself he said some really, really nasty confessions in his books. So I can't even list those. You're just gonna have to take my word for it that he definitely belongs well up here or here.
I think he's probably doing some fucked up shit. Friends with Albert Einstein, or at least worked with him. Worked with can mean anything, but if he's running in a similar circle, Einstein was doing some messed up shit. A lot of these people were extreme deviants.
I'm just really concerned about the babies. I again, I think the Oregon is really cool. I know Dargos, you were saying something, and I forgive me, you were saying something before that I do want to hear.
No, I was just agreeing. I wanted to also find out what was he doing with the babies.
Yeah.
Well, we cannot
Okay, so
list
yeah,
that because this
I'm
thing
gonna
will get
say
censored, all
unhinged too
right?
because like the little bit looking him up right quick, he looks very questionable to me. So I'm gonna have to say he was unhinged. And then why did he stop working with Einstein?
Because Einstein told him to fuck off.
Yeah,
Well,
so somebody who's already like kind of into some other shit, like, "Well, you real fucked up, get away from, excuse me, you're real messed up, get away from me." Yeah,
that's actually like, that's intense. It's like, it's messed up when like the really messed up people tell you to get away because you're messed up.
Yeah.
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 I I honestly,
Well, we got one for truly insane, another for unhinged. What
Insane.
have you two got to add?
yeah, I'm gonna go with insane. Let's
Yep.
stick with it.
Okay, that's three
I'm
people,
saying insane.
so there's no room for
Yeah.
debate over that one. Okay, is that unanimous? I think it's
Oh
our
yeah.
first unanimous. Next, we've got Dinshar Gardiali. Oh, sorry, hang on. My camera ran out. Let me retake that. Next, we've got Dinshar Gardiali. Born in India in the 1800s, Gardiali researched light-based healing and is first recorded to have helped someone in 1897. His spectrochrome was created severe burns, among other things, by shining a light that mustered the human immune response and was based on the works of Edwin Babbitt. After arriving in the US, Dinshar also invented the anti-forgery pen, the automobile fault finder, which was used in World War I planes, the antinude, the sympathometer, and the Normand. Now, with the exception of the automobile fault finder, I have no idea what any of this is. Dinshar also claims he made the first seeing and hearing camera and won his first courtroom trial but lost his second and was banned from making disease-specific claims. One day after the penalty expired, he went back to work until the FDA smashed his devices and jailed him. When he got out, he spent his middle 80s working and creating devices. He was the old dog with the new tricks. Okay, that roughly covers the spectrochrome. It would shine specialized lights on people and psych your body into doing what you wanted it to do. I
I have the
made
light
one, but it didn't
device.
work, although it's more a product of it being extremely crude based on what I did. Oh, sorry, I forgot to add this. He also was rumored to have graduated of secondary school at the age of about, no, entered secondary school at the age of about 6, and then was in university by the age of something like 12. Whilst we were either colouring books or being weird and horny, that's what he was doing with his time.
I actually have a device myself, and I do think again like light and sound is something that is we do have responses to, and I also wonder if people in this world, if people in this world actually are um, targeted for a reason, because by targeting these people, we don't get this information out. So I don't think someone looking at now again, I don't know enough about him. I do would like to do a lot more research, but I do definitely think the work that he is doing and the work that Rife had done are both in the same space, right? And definitely very important to this day. So I would put him as personally I'd put him debatable. Probably more stable than anybody. Um, Guy seems like a pretty stellar guy. He did not have a baby research lab. Um, you know, and I think he got attacked for his work, and it sucks. It's really sad that when you make a whole bunch of devices and then you get jailed. It's really sad the amount of people that have gone out of their way to give us some really good information, and we crucify them.
Well, it doesn't sound like a bad response. The only thing I'll add is working when you're in your 80s on that scale, you have to be willing to shake things up a bit. So we probably get a few points for that, lovingly. Although, what do you two think? I think debatable is acceptable here.
Yeah, I could go with debatable. I also believe there is something to different spectrums
Okay.
of healing. Also, you have a female doctor who probably about 2 years ago used photons, which are basically those different
Yep.
rays to act. So,
Well, if I can add to that quickly, like
Yeah.
the something called and this is actually a research that was online. Not it was it's actually it's something that we can say this, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all in all, he was very good. Like it was very impressive. But if we're talking mad scientists, I can only see him in the debatable range. Are we
yeah,
I'm gonna
settled on
say
this one?
debatable because it sounds like he's an accomplished inventor, and he's not making absolutely crazy claims like some of the other people on this list. He's not totally out to lunch.
Yeah, he had people coming to him and they had claims.
Yeah, like some of these inventions are very commonplace these days.
Right, we're going after one of my very favourites now. We got Antoine Priore. In the 1960s, Priore gained major attention for the M600, which was reputed to. He invented it after he saw in 1994, whilst being enslaved by Elon Musk's boyfriend, that some oranges left near electrical equipment had remained fresh. He joined the French resistance and fought in World War II, helping to liberate some of southern France. Afterwards, he explored the effects of electromagnetic waves on various plants. Sorry, I'm on. I've been awake since quite a bit, so he noted that the ones that were radiated with his apparatus had much higher growth than normal. In doing further research, he found that big C tissue saw partial or total remission when exposed to the waves. He was inspired to build a larger device after his sister became ill with Big C and was financed by the French government under Jacques Chaban-Delmas. But following a change in government in 74, he lost his support financially and politically. They spent a few years trying to bring the device to market in the field of medical research and development. They even gained financial support from a group of wealthy supporters. However, when almost close to finishing the device, the funding was withdrawn following severe threats. He never received those funds, and after Priore died in 1983, the device fell into disuse and was later dismantled. Sorry for my delivery. I've been awake since 8 and it's coming up on 1 a.m. So that translates to, is that 15
You're
hours
doing
on the
good.
go?
I'm impressed, and I'm so sorry to make you do that.
No, we good. I'm just gonna lay my head down and let you do some talking. Okay, go on.
Well, no, you can't fall asleep just yet.
It's all right. I'm just resting
We
the
can't hear you. You sound
muscles.
like you're in a fishbowl now.
I'm just resting a moment. I'm not gonna pass out. Don't worry.
This guy actually really fascinates me. It really fascinates me. I believe we spoke about him before, and he,
Yeah, it being a lot closer to your work than any of the
you
others
know,
on this
a lot of
list.
them. It's funny because all of them are on the same. We're on or like a lot of these people, whether I remember their names or not, because let's face it, I am horrible with names. There's I guarantee there's something in my house that has one of their modalities. Now, what again? I would stick to this guy. To be honest, like anybody that loses their financial support and political support, um, and again, there's no close relation to children. I personally, I'm grateful and thankful, and I think that they, this guy's put a lot of effort in place to try and figure out something that, and my understanding is that when the French government asked him to tell them what he did to explain the M600, he wouldn't, he wouldn't because he was afraid that um but they knew they were going to be used for nefarious acts, and I think he that's inspiring, someone that goes out of their way to help their family and doesn't just stop there, right? And they help other people. Some of this word of the mouth stuff are the best answers. At the same time, you do sure you need to get a second and third and fourth opinion sometimes, right? But this guy, I think, I would definitely put him probably on the most probably more stable. Um, I
Yeah, I mean, me too.
Yeah, he didn't end up in a psych ward after he lost his pretty much lost everything, right? So
Yeah, including his sister, which must have hurt when you're that close to. The mad thing is, I can relate to that notion a little bit, given some of my own experiences. Except,
mhm.
she came out alive. But let's not go there. So, what do we think? Have
I
you
think
two
he's
got anything
stable.
to add to this before we finalize?
Um, debatable.
I'm hearing 3 stable, so we'll keep him where he is.
Why debatable?
Because going through that, he first of all he's smart, so he's going to have some other stuff. Two, going through all that pain, I'm sure he was fighting demons the whole time, which
That's a good point.
Yeah,
would make
I
it debatable.
actually, yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
I think he just about qualifies for stable to my eyes. I see your point, though. All right. Next, we got Jacques Neves. Wait, here he is. Neves took it upon himself to bring hold on. Acloribson
Anthracycline. Anthracycline.
amprocycline back into European pharmacies after it was discontinued in 2004. It being an antibiotic that specifically targets big C cells and intervenes with their growth and replication processes. He featured in The Guardian and has advocated for it to be reinstated. Akla is available in China and Japan, while we Europeans chase our tails, and the same goes for you North Americans in that regard. Alright, now I couldn't find a great deal on the man, so there really isn't a lot to go over here. What are we settling on?
Well, it's hard to make an opinion when we don't really know much about him.
I tried, really.
So what we see is that he does have quite a bit of he went to London University. He was he was one of the winners of what is it, the Spinoza Prize. Um, my problem is a lot of these people claiming and being in these big spaces. Like, I mean, we talked about it the other day about how there's a lot of people, modern day people, especially, that like you don't get to the places that you don't get. Like, you don't get to these places unless you are friends with certain people. Now, at the same time, this guy might be just a basic scientist trying to help some people. Um, I don't think there's only one cure for cancer. I do not believe we're cookie cutter at all. But I also think that if there is an antibiotic that would help us, um, it's very sad that it's only available in China and Japan. And what's also sad is that the European market, which kind of demonstrates to me that Europe and Western culture actually doesn't really care about our health the way China does. And being in China and seeing how Chinese medicine works as an alternative practitioner, um, Chinese medicine is very interesting, and it's something that should not be. Same thing with Ayurvedics. A lot of people will dismiss doctors from India, and they'll say, "Oh no, these guys know what they're talking about because they've been able to deal with things on a level that we're not even on when it comes to Western culture, because our allopathic system is let's say, like, it's a baby, right? We're still learning, and a lot of people here are not going to do the accountability to their body, and I hate to say it, but that includes United Kingdom, that includes Canada, that includes United States. We're all been cookie cutter, and you can't find out your blood type, all right, unless you ask your doctor, and then your doctor sends you to a test. And then at that test, when you ask that person that takes that blood out of your body, if you ask them what your blood type is, they're not going to tell you, okay? Until the doctor sits you down and tells you. So that shows you right there that you are not even in control of your bodily functions or at all, right? And that's kind of scary. I don't know. I really don't know. I almost feel like we should have like an I don't know category for people that we don't know enough about. If any of you guys know more about this guy, then please, because I really can't say he's truly insane or stable when I don't know who he is.
Yeah.
It might be easy enough just to invent one. Hang on. Add row below. Go with. What's this? Blue?
You
No,
started
not
moving the
that.
page, and I thought it was me moving the page, and I was like, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing?" Like, it's his live. Sorry, dude.
Okay, I'm just gonna add a new one.
Yeah, it's like you could claim one of these guys are stable and then they're on the Epstein list.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's what kind of scares me is
You're
that
not giving us all the facts.
no, a lot of people, like, this guy's part of the Department of Cell and Chemical Biology. I mean, like, again, like, he's a member of RAD. Like, there's a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I had to invent a new stage for that because yeah,
Sorry.
you're right. As I pointed out, I've given us very little to go off of. But
Well,
that's less true for this next one.
does anybody else have anything to say about this guy, or am I
Yeah,
forgiving
sorry.
everyone?
I should have. We,
Yes, no, maybe?
um, no, my I don't know enough. My only thing is I'm apprehensive when it comes because as we found out, because we've given all these
Yep.
because they become
Yes.
ridiculous by you.
Yep.
So that's my apprehension about his treatment.
okay.
You're
Are we
just
settling
just
on?
the hold on, give a second. Dargos, just to let you know, your mic is dropping in and out. So I don't know if your headphones are dying or if you're in a if you walked somewhere in the room. Okay, go on.
Okay, are we settling on unsure for this one? Because I feel like there's a lot of hypotheticals in here.
Especially right now, I think we should probably have like a revisit to this in like the next couple of years and see where these guys are. Like, I mean, obviously the ones that are dead, but the ones that are, I hate, sounds so horrible. Maybe even the ones that have, RIP, but like maybe there's even more information that we find out about some people, right? So, there might be some more people on the list. Unsure, babe?
Yeah, again, unsure. Just not much info.
All right,
Google's not
next
helping us.
is.
No,
So the next one is censored. You're going to have to take my word for it. There was a good story here. Can't share it.
Sorry.
Next,
Okay. Well,
we've got Samuel Heinemann. Having lost his son to disease in the 1700s, Heinemann, I can't do that, went on to create the practice of homeopathy. Homeopathy was introduced in 1796 by Heinemann and is based on the principle that all maladies that produced in a healthy person effects similar to the symptoms of those maladies. He believed that large dilution. Homeopaths believe that a minute is better. That's just my report. I'm not saying you should necessarily act on it. Okay, so who's got some ins and outs for this one? The general theory, not every single thing on his list.
well,
I don't think it's a terrible idea what he came up with,
no, I
but
don't.
I think it's also worth contextualizing in the time, right? Like when we talk about a large dose, I mean, people were taking crazy shit back in the day, self-administering arsenic and mercury, like just crazy shit, people self-administering heroin or cocaine, and that's just how they start their day, right? Because there hadn't been a sort of cultural understanding around some of these drugs yet. They were brand new, and these scientists were like, oh, fucking. A lot of people today, they'll put like literally into, just dilute it into water and consume that. Um, you have to contextualize that with what sort of drug you're talking about, right? I think that's, and contextualize that in the time. What was a big dose for the time? That's the trouble. I think some people take it to the extreme where they're like, oh, I will take like, it's that'd be something maybe worth looking into. Like if you're going billions of times lower than the,
Well,
I don't think that works. I don't think he's unstable.
I think actually this guy's probably the most stable guy on here, only because in the 1700s, he was telling people to like lay off the sauce, right? So, and honestly, again, as an alternative practitioner, one thing I know is the nervous system. Like I touch you, like give me your arm, right? You have a little piece of hair, and I touch that hair, right? Like your nervous system can feel that. So that means to me that like your body does respond through microdoses. Some of the things that we're putting in our systems today are way above what our bodies are able to process, way above what our liver and our kidneys should be processing. Little, and we're having I'm not going to go into other stuff, but so it is sad that he's categorized as a pseudoscience, um, and I think that not that everything in homeopathy is great and concrete. No, I'm not going to go there, but I definitely think that he was on the precipice of something that people need to look at. Like, don't do too much, right? Less is more.
Yeah, I forgot to add this on earlier that during the cholera epidemic in London, the London Homeopathic Hospital had a mortality rate of around 15%. Now, I could be wrong there, just around it. The nearby Middlesex Hospital had more like half, for reference, and that was one of the classical recorded instances. I should also say that homeopathy is recognized by the government of India and it's used by the million
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, there's a lot of backing in that. So I mean, I think this guy was quite cool. I mean, I don't know what his home life was.
Yeah.
I don't know what weird things he did, but just alone, like him going on and trying to help by letting people know, hey, just chill. I don't think it's bad.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry.
really, he does seem quite stable to my
Yeah.
eyes.
Dargos?
I would have to agree. Even when you take natural remedies, you think about when you juice certain vegetables and herbs, certain things, you take what? You usually take one a day, certain cleanses, even if it's natural. So I totally agree with it. Totally being sane. Um, we already know we have to do everything in moderation anyway. To overdo anything is bad for you. Stable.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I think stable. Are we settling on there?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, good. Next up, censored. We're going back to this again. All right, next up, George Lakovsky, who I've been researching more recently. He is just going to rest there. Lakovsky designed at least, a new bridge when he was 6 years old, and I think he was incorporated into university at 12, like Dinshaw. Lakovsky spent the early part of his career in France supporting World War One by making radio communications work better. And in the early 1940s, he was working in French hospitals late 30s to very early 40s. He was in France operating a device which is made to mimic the frequency the body would emit if it was healthy. In doing so, it is said to have made the unhealthy body function normally. The MWO, in the recollection of Stephen Ross, was no bigger than a briefcase and sounded as if somebody was frying bacon. According to rumour, it could stop the Big C, but we don't know that that's proven. In 1941, Lakovsky fled France and made his way to New York to get away from the Nazis and released his book, The Secret of Life. After this book was released, he was approached by several hospitals in New York wanting to test his apparatus. Remarkable results were obtained from a major New York City hospital and in Brooklyn by a urologist in summer of 1941. Lakovsky was killed by a limo in 1942, and shortly after, all of his devices were taken from the hospital and all treatment was made unavailable, only resurfacing when Stephen Ross went looking for it. Okay, did I explain that correctly?
Yeah, so this is the guy, for all of you guys that don't know, that's sitting down on the chair that has the coil behind him and in front of him. There's a couple of the memes.
That's him
Yeah.
here.
Very cool stuff. I actually, it's hard because, I wish again like we had more information, but I definitely feel like in order to create a type of invention like this and go out there um, at that time, and I know we just said that this Samuel guy is stable, but I think what his claim was is a little bit different than this guy that's going around with like frequency emitted devices. But at the same time, I also don't think this guy's crazy because he's found something that's cool, right? So I do know about the book The Secret of Life, and I do know a couple of his published works. So this guy to me is um, I think he's probably want to put him in the debatable category, um, but yeah, I think until I know more about other things, anybody that escaped a Nazi invasion and released a book and then decided to still try to help people, I think they're that's a pretty cool person, pretty cool man. Forgive me.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, he was impressive. He was Russian or Belarusian, if you want to be
That's very
specific.
impressive.
And yeah, I think he's probably the only famous Belarusian I know because you hear almost nothing from them. But having said that, where do we think we should place him? Because I'm sensing debatable to stable.
What do you think, guys?
I think
Probably
the
stable.
way everything was presented makes him sound kind of stable. Like,
Right.
I need to see some more information on him. I'm gonna say stable.
Douglas?
All right.
I agree.
All right. That's that. Next up is Dr. Sebi, real name Alfredo Bowman. When told he was mortally sick, Dr. Sebi spat in the eyes of medical science and created what he called an alkaline diet. Now, I'm not suggesting anybody use this thing if you're sick, all right? I'm just talking about it and saying what it was. Don't hinge any of your well-being on this. He's reported to have lived well into his later years and shone a torch on how the human body was far stronger when free from acidic food and drink. A theory that was supported by a 2022 study, not confirmed but supported. He received praise from Nipsey Hussle and Lisa Left Eye Lopez, both of whom died in deaths often thought to have been ordered by the Gov. His diet was rumoured to cure AIDS, leukemia, and many other sicknesses, but we are not saying that they work. We are not advertising that the diet can help you. Talk to your doctor if you're sick. He was also known. Forgive me, I should have done this earlier. He was also known to take great liberties with his love life, having around 4 wives. In the end, he died during captivity with no trial date or bail set, and his autopsy report was never released. Okay, everybody's thoughts?
I honestly, I do think that there are so many amazing things about Dr. Sabi that we will never know about because he was so badly attacked by the U.S. government, as we see with Nipsey Hussle and Left Eye. Anybody that kind of, and I believe there's other stories. Anybody that tried to cover him, and like anybody that's
Mhm.
great in our time, somehow they end up, dead. It just kind of happens. So for me, it's a little bit weird how that happened. I think I'd put him, yeah, I don't really like the idea that he had 4 wives. That's none of my business, though. As long as he's not, talking to kids again. Um, but one thing I will say is that he helped a lot of people. And to this day, those diets, his niece I follow, and a couple of his family members, they have some pages online, some websites and stuff that you can actually hear them talk about what Dr. Sabi had, done the research for. So I mean, I'll be honest with you, this man, uh, in my mind, is definitely stable. I want to put him in the genius category because I feel like he did have to have some serious tenacity to go against the government. And I feel horrible. I feel horrible in the fact that um, the way he passed away and what happened to people that tried to cover his story. I feel like it's an injustice, and it just shows again this time that we're living in, that like how dare we speak on things that are true. When there's a what is it, corporate ties to the pharmaceuticals, right? Which I think that needs to be looked at. So I'm going to put him on stable.
All right. For me personally, I think the wife thing knocks him up a few notches. So I'd go as high as some screws loose. I'm not saying he deserved what he got, but uh, all in all, I think his diet does. I think it merits investigation at least. What do you two have to say?
There's some conditions where there's some conditions in the body where your body can't even properly make use of any diet because its ability to process things has been impaired, right? Like AIDS, for example, causes massive amounts of muscle wasting, protein wasting, right? Like your body does not effectively use things when you have certain conditions. Same with cancer, right? I mean, cancer coincides with like a lower metabolic state, right? So your body is not able to, it's not operating at 100%. So a diet alone, I think there's a lot of different things you kind of have to throw at a problem.
Well, there's a lot of stuff missing here, forgive me. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't just give you a diet. Actually, what he worked
Right.
primarily on is herbs. So what he introduces to people on any of these diets, and I do know people that have gotten severe, like serious results from them. And I also know some people that go down the vegan route and they get sick because they're not doing it properly, right? But and you got to think about it. When you're living in Canada, there's certain things that you can and cannot do, right?
Yeah.
But
Uh,
what his body, what he was doing was pretty much starving the issue in the body so the body can replenish itself. And there's a lot of documentation similar to Samuel that talk about micro or macro ways. Like what I wanted to add on to Dr. Sami is that he didn't just supply an alkaline diet. What he supplied was a high amount of superfoods and herbs that most people were not using. They're not utilizing actually daily. And so what he would do is introduce these herbs to your body with an alkaline diet that would nervous system, and therefore the result would be that dormant. You would able to get by going into a fast or a water fast, herb fast. I don't think he was really too much into dry fasting, but a little bit of intermittent fasting. What you're doing is you're allowing your body to replenish resources. So there's a lot of stuff that to the Dr. Sebi that I think are quite cool. Like I agreed. I don't like the fact that he had 4 wives, but again, it's really none of my business what people do behind closed doors. Was he a smart man, and did he have logic and was able to speak good job of it? And I'm really impressed with him. So forgive me. I really am a fan of Dr. Sebi.
All right, where does that put him on the ranking though? Because I'm thinking some screws loose for his relationships, not so much for his thinking.
Okay, look, I want to comment about Sabi. Like Sabi, I know a lot about Sabi. Sabi. Um, the 4 wives, you have to. He's from a culture. You got to look at culture. Like you're judging one man's culture from another. You have cultures to where you have multiple. So I can't judge him on being a screw loose because he come from a religious belief or a culture to where they're raised with multiple wives. Now, speaking about, it's also his regimen, the herbs and vegetables and the fruits. First of all, it was the stages you had to do it in.
Yeah,
Depending on
agreed.
what your issue was, you had to go through stages. You had to
Yeah,
clean out guts, you had to clean out lymph nodes, you had to purify blood, depending on what the situation is. Like there were levels to it, not to mention,
yeah. Forgive me.
he
Yes, yes.
also you also had to be physical with that. And that's one thing a lot of people miss that he talked a lot about. Not only have to do your mind and body simultaneously in order for it to heal while you're doing those herbs. So
Yeah,
if
you
you
have to
went
believe
down
it.
to his court, yeah, you got up in the morning, did
Hmm.
exercise, you did warm spring hot spring treatment, like the things where you help the toxins out your system by sitting in like a steam room, like a
Yeah,
hot
forgive
spring,
me. Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
order
Exactly.
to help purify toxins. So it wasn't all just orally. It was also working on every other aspect of your body and your mind aligned with the healing and what you were putting into.
Yeah. Like
If you
that.
remember, they tried to prosecute him the first time. He had people who he had said they told him
Hmm.
to prove it. And he went and got all these people who had been who went back and they were found to not have them anymore.
Yes, I do recall that. There was a court case in which he was able to fight his way back out because people came forward with some before and after records.
Say totally sane, stable.
Yeah.
All right, well, yeah, is that 3 for stable?
Yeah, I mean, again, like he didn't, in my mind, he didn't do anything so bad that what he just did is to be honest, he was one of the first that didn't just primarily fight for, Haitian rights or Dominican rights or black rights. He really looked for the fact that, and thank you, Dargis, for going into that. Like, we're not cookie cutter, so those regiments were created by by not even necessarily trial and error, by science, by knowing exactly what herbs work, and by administering these herbs at the right time, right? And yeah, like you said, there was phases, there was protocols, there was regiments. It wasn't like you go to Dr. Sabi's house and Sebi's gonna turn you into a mushroom. You know what I mean? And like, no, you went there and you got help, right? And it's very sad. So I'm gonna agree. As I always said, Stable. I really like this guy, and I really feel like we should have given him more of a chance. And it's disgusting what we do when people try to help us.
Yeah, I know the type. All right, next. We're nearing the end now. We've got John Smedley. In 1851, John Smedley brought hydropathy to Lea Bridge, opening a free hospital for up to 6 patients. He is said to have healed people by exposing them to well-regulated water for the purpose of countering illness. By 1859, Smedley's hydro had 76 bedrooms, but as he grew, he created a castellated west spring. Upon completion, the hospital was rumored to take 2,000 people every year. The hydro was commandeered by the RAF in 1918. It was fully shut down in 1939 as an intelligence training centre. At the war's end, hydropathy was no longer fashionable and the economy was in pieces. Sorry, I couldn't dig up much on this one. It was really hard. So this might just be another case of unsure unless you lot have got something to add to it.
Actually, I know quite a bit about the hydrotherapy. That's the big house, right? Like the huge hydro building that.
Chatsworth, yeah, Chatsworth
Yeah, I think
Gardens.
Douglas and I have spoken about this even at Heteronormy, so I think all of us are quite, again, and I think another thing to bring into, and you might know this, when was the demonization or the separate, when did they separate holistic and spa services? What do you know what date that was? Like it was like 18,
I
I
don't
believe it's
know
like,
the date. I could just tell you like different stages of work and main people responsible for taking a holistic out of medicine.
I believe that I believe his facility is one of the reasons why they separated it, because he was getting so many people that were getting healthy from hydrotherapy, from getting into I believe there's parts of his building that were ran just on the changes of water going up and down. And I don't know exactly what were in the pipes, but like what the pipes were made out of, but the water regulated the room so well that it didn't matter if the room was hot or cold. The room was always adjusted to the temperature that people were in. What he was able to do was really cool. I again, I want to. uh, I don't know. It's really sad for me how it was commandeered, and I wonder how his responses were to that. So I'd like to hear more about. Do you know anything more about him, or you just know about this, Professor O?
Honestly, this one was quite a challenge to read into. There was vanishingly little on it, as with Neves. So we I don't know anything about the man. I just know what he did for the practice a little bit, and forgive me, this I really can't see this going anywhere except unsure.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, there's not a lot of room for interpretation there.
Okay.
Next, we have Gaston Nasons. Now, stupidly, I didn't actually list anything on this, so we're just going to go off of my memory of him. He was a researcher, French born, who left for Quebec, where he created the 13X and the Gaston Nason's beam. And he had beliefs around something called somatids, which were kind of how he represented the Big C's growth cycle. And that had minor overlaps with Dr. Sebi's stance on how disease came into being. And he was arrested for accomplice to murder when someone used one of his devices instead of usual treatment. And again, I'm not telling anyone to do this, all right? This is just me reporting it. And he was acquitted. There's some footage of him at the trial, in fact. It was somewhat high profile back in the day. And at this point, you can get access to the 13X on prescription in Canada, but it's illegal in the United States. Now, forgive me that I couldn't add a great deal to this guy, but it was another sound-based beam. With that in mind, do you think we got just enough to go on here to file him somewhere?
I'm trying to get some more information on him myself so I can.
Yes, thanks for
So I
that.
believe that he. That's really weird. So he supposedly in the 1960s there's stories of him helping but could not keep the so it wasn't like these. So I almost want to know what exactly he was doing. He had considerable charitable funding for pediatric oncology, right? He had in the 1970s and 1980s, there was an impact of that from his research. But I think I don't know. Like I personally don't know enough. Again, it kind of rolls back into the other guy that's dealing with pharmaceuticals. Like anything that just because you made and but I also see that if this now my concern here is this if and this is my issue with a lot of stuff is that if the drug you're taking is just putting things in remission, then it's not a cure, right? Um, but if the drug that you're taking is actually giving you results where we go take a test and there's no more cells of what we're talking about, that's a cure, right? So I don't think we can say for when these treatments were still allowing, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't add up. And I need to probably get more information from him. So I'm gonna, sorry for my long-windedness. I will probably stick to unsure.
Yeah, was any debate over that? I don't think
Douglas?
so.
All right.
Now, on to the final. Now, I could do this myself, but I could let you lot talk it through. Who's leading the analysis of Professor O? Is it me or one of you three?
All right. Forged in the hard industry. Sorry, I think you should go. You go.
Yes, forged in the hard industrial north of England. I've spent almost 5 years researching, reaching for all things filed under bollocks and loving every second of it. Inventor of the sock phone and lover of grunge music, I have been told by dozens that I have helped them with so-called debunked ideas, most commonly known for the Cloudbuster. And in need of sleep quite badly. This is the last one I have to deal with, thank Christ. So overall, brief synopsis of me: 3 accounts with PTSD, 1 account with ASD. Oh, come off it. 1 account with ASD, and generally possessing a high willingness to be unpredictable. I mean, I class myself as unhinged, but not truly insane, and I want to be comparable to some of what Reich was doing. What do we
You know,
reckon? Where should we
I think
finalize?
you wanna go to the top, but I honestly feel like it's debatable, and maybe some screws loose.
I'm gonna rank
Oh,
you a
what do
little
you
lower than
think?
Screws Loose, I think.
Huh.
I do agree with the assessment
Yeah.
though. You want to be insane. You're like aspirational
And
towards
Dargos,
that, but you're not. You're more stable than that.
You're good. You're good.
you make me sound so
You're
boring.
not.
All right, Dargos, what's your stance?
Debatable.
Debate? Oh, come off it. Fine, fine, but I'm going on the higher side of this. Unhinged got no one. I was
No,
expecting that.
you're great. You know what? You don't want to come off like you don't want to be insane. You know, like you really don't. Well, this was lovely, and thank you for doing this, and it was a lot of fun.
No,
It's
thank
always
you.
it's good.
So, big thanks to Temps for tech support, Mental Alchemy for making time and research, and Dargos for adding a lot of value, particularly in the early stages. You have made this possible for me. Thank you so much. I'm gonna go pass out. I guarantee you, I'm going to be out cold in less than 5 minutes once I hang up.
Well, I hope you have great sleeps.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks again.
Enjoy. You earned it.
Any last words, Dargos?
Have a good one. Good night.
Good night in a bit. Bye.
Good night. Good night.